Aye, shepherd's pie, greeting from the Philippines. Welcome back to the channel. I'm having real trouble finding somewhere to sit down and or even walk around and make my videos because there's so much background music here. So much background music, it's very hard. Anyway, I found a little place on the corner. I've had to buy a red horse to avail myself of the facilities, which is a bit naughty because it's only 20 to 2. Anyway, I digress. I'm right close to the road and there's a building site over there, so there's a lot of noise coming up. I'm just going to move the camera over a little bit. Got the old dirty kitchen behind me because the wind's coming in from the sea because I'm right on the side. Anyway, let's get to the cut and the quick, or the whatever you want to call it. Some cautionary tales here. Now I've just made a video which might come up first, might come up afterwards, telling you why you should retire now. Don't hesitate, become an expat. Now these next two stories will probably fly in the face of that, but as the title of the video says, do not run out of money overseas. It is god awful to end up in that situation. I'm going to tell you two tales now, one from Thailand and one from the Philippines. What can basically happen to you if you stay too long? When you run out of money, you've got to get out of the country. If you stay too long, my first story will tell you the kind of thing that can happen to you. Second story, if you don't have health insurance, medical insurance, that's one thing you cannot skimp on. If you can't afford the insurance, don't stay in the country. It's as simple as that, fellas. Right, so story number one. When I first moved to Thailand, I met a great guy called Kevin. I don't know, anyway, I don't know his second, it doesn't really matter, so I can't tell you more. His name was Kevin. And he came from up north somewhere, I can't remember, it was Newcastle or Middlesbrough or something, it was a northern place. And he was a great bloke. Now, he had a bar in Pattaya, a bar girls bar, which wasn't my kind of place. But I ended up going there, because when I first got to Pattaya, you know, in Johnson, anyway, I basically went down there one night, from Johnson, because that's where I was staying, just have a few beers and walk the street, and I ended up in this bar and I met Kevin and his girlfriend at the time, Al, who owned the place, and I hit it off with him. I really hit it off with him, and we became good friends. And he was a great bloke and she was a great woman. They'd been together about 19 years, I think it was 19 years, I've been there a long time. And he ended up getting me an apartment next to him. Got me a really good deal, sorted everything out, and we were neighbours for like about 6 months. And I did a lot of socialising with Kevin and Al, and a lot of people worked in the bar, because there's a few other people that, you know, lived in the same apartment block as us. We were very different types of people, but you can see past that, you know, next part. Like you get on with people you wouldn't move for, you know, in different lives. Because Kevin was your typical guy. He'd gone over there as a sex tourist. Actually, his wife had died in an accident, and he got compensation for that, a car accident. I think it was a car accident, but anyway, she died in some accident. He'd got compensation. Gone to Thailand as a sex tourist. He had bought a bar, and he'd been there for about 20 years. And he was basically a fat alcoholic, but a nice bloke. I was amazed as I got to know him better, because although I was only in Johnson and Pattaya for 6 months, when I moved to Phetchabun, I used to have to do the visa runs every 3 months in those days. So I'd come back to Pattaya to do the visa runs sometimes, go over the Cambodian border, because there's a few companies that ran them out of Pattaya. I didn't always do it that way. Sometimes I flew to Malaysia, different things, but I would always look Kevin up and have a, you know, a night or two out on a beer with him. And towards the end, the last 6-7 months of me going down there, he was in real trouble. His bar was going under. I mean, he had done incredibly well to last as long as he did, because most bars, I think it's like 80% of the bars in Thailand, they go under in in Pattaya. They go under each year. You know, they go under and then some other idiot buys them and something, and it's just this vicious circle. So for Kevin to last as long as he had done was pretty outstanding considering what he was like in terms of his drinking and all that. I mean, Pattaya had done a lot of damage to him. I mean, I saw photos as I got up, you know, over the years of when he first arrived, and he was a young, fresh-looking guy. I don't think he was that old. I think he was early 20s. I'm not sure, but the point is, you could see how he'd let himself go. He was quite fit, big-looking fella. You know, quite handsome to be. I was quite surprised, really. But what the Kevin I knew was about fucking 10 stone overweight, lost a lot of his teeth. You know, just used to get the moped, wouldn't walk more than 300 metres. Anyway, towards the end, Kevin was struggling. And a couple of times he asked me for if I wanted to invest in the bar, and I was like, no, I don't, mate. You know, not my thing. I can't do anything. I'd like to do less. And it's true, I wouldn't want to. And even if I knew the bar was going under, because I mean, he'd got to the stage where really all he wanted to do, he would sit in the bar, he'd get pissed all day. He'd go back to his apartment, he'd get up in the afternoon, 4 o'clock, drink, go to the bar, drink. I know the girls were robbing him blind, even though he was sat there, because I knew some of the girls quite well, you know, friends of friends, and you know. And I knew what was going on there, but how do you tell someone something like that? You know what I mean? Sometimes it's better not to say anything. But anyway, all he wanted was at the end of the night, about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, he wanted 1,000 baht out of the till, and then he'd go off and do whatever he was doing, drinking other places, shagging a short time. I don't know. I honestly never went with him. I didn't go to the bar that much, you know what I mean? If I went with him in other places, but when he left, I never wanted. A couple of times he said, "Do you want to come with me?" And I was like, "No, I can only imagine where he got to, it wasn't me." But anyway, so I knew the bar was going to go under, and then one day I was back in Petrobum, I got a message from someone saying the bar was gone, that he'd lost it, and I, like, you know, tried to get hold of Kevin, but his phone wasn't answering. And then about 3 or 4 months after that, my girlfriend showed me a picture of Facebook, and it was Kevin looking really bestraggled, walking down the street. It didn't look like he knew someone was taking a picture of him. It looked like someone had snapped him without him knowing, but he looked a mess. And the message was that they were trying to raise money for him to get him back to the UK. And it didn't look convincing. I mean, he wasn't in the picture, so we immediately thought, you know, my girlfriend, hey, it's a scam, someone's taken that, you know, because a lot of scams go on in these places. And that was that. I didn't really think much more of it. And then when I split up with my girlfriend, we had came to the end in Pattaya, as in Petrobum. The logical thing for me was to go back to Pattaya. Not to stay, not my place, but I have friends there and I knew people there. So I thought, I'll go back there, I'll regroup, because you can rent an apartment, like, you know, by the month there, no problem or whatever. And when I got back there, I went down a couple of the bars in Jomtien and Pattaya, looking for people I knew, because I wanted to find out who was his girlfriend, and find out what happened to Kevin, because no one seemed to know. And I found her, because someone told me where she was working. And we got talking, and she basically said he was living rough. He'd been in prison, he was living rough, and he was always hanging around, he was always looking for money from her, and I needed to go away from there soon, because he'd arrive at some stage, and if he saw me, he'd just be after me for money, and you know, all that, and he was living on the beach. And I was like, well, no, look, I like Kevin. If he turns up, I want to help him. And lo and behold, he turned up about half an hour after that, big smile on his face when he saw me, come and sat down, and he stunk to high heaven. He'd been sleeping on the beach, living rough for like the last couple of months. So like I said to him, look, you know, here's some money. Got me fucking 500,000, 1,000 baht or whatever, because he was on about, he wanted to have a drink and something to eat. And I said, look, she doesn't want you eating and drinking here, so here's some money, you go and get sorted, and you come back here like in an hour or whatever, and come back to my apartment and have a shower and a clean up. And we did that, and he ended up staying with me for most of the time I was in Pattaya. He stayed with me in my apartment. Now before I'd got there, he was staying with the family of a girlfriend, sleeping on the floor outside their house because he'd met some right dodgy girl by the sound of it. She was in prison for shoplifting. But Kevin, he was in a terrible situation. He had a lot of friends around Pattaya because he had the bar for so long, and he had just borrowed cash off all of them for the last couple of months before he ended up homeless. And eventually they'd all told him to piss off, as happens over there, because you try and help a couple of times but you can't because it happens to so many people. And so he'd ended up rough, sleeping rough, and then he'd end up in prison, and they'd kept him inside for about 3 months, I think it was 4 months, and then they'd released him. And he had a lawyer over there, and the problem was they were going to arrest him again, but they let him out of prison on the basis that he could get together the money to pay his fine for his overstay and his flights back. But he couldn't get the money together, and I was seriously considering helping him. I mean, part of me was saying, well, it's not my problem. You know, he's got himself in this, but equally I thought I can't leave him like that. So I was debating it, but then I met up with another expat I knew. I said, look, I'm thinking of buying Kevin a flight and, you know, doing the thing. And he was like, don't do it, mate. Because my suggestion to him was we go off, like a couple of us would get together and do that. And he was like, no, don't do that. You're an idiot, you do that. And I said, why? He said, because he'll just piss it up the wall. And I said, well, not if I buy him a flight. He said, mate, he said, 2 people have bought him flights already. He never makes it to the airport. He never makes it to the airport. He will not leave. There's nothing you can do for him. And I asked Kevin about that, and he denied it at first and admitted it. He said once just as he got to the airport, he couldn't do it, he went back again. So you're in a situation then, you know, what could you do for him? You can't buy him a flight because he won't get on the flight. You can't give him money cash in hand because he'll just spend it on alcohol and whatever. You know, it was a difficult situation, and I was starting to get worried because, you know, I was going to have to go. And anyway, I'd met another girlfriend by then. I mean, one of the reasons I went back was I always liked a friend of Angelique's, and I got with the girlfriend I was with for 5 years. I'd always liked her friend, and she worked in the same hotel that Angelique worked in, and I'd always regretted, you know, going to. Anyway, it didn't matter. So anyway, I went back. Part of my reason going back to Pattaya was to get up with Nui. And we ended up together a good couple of years, but that's a different story. But anyway, I was seeing Nui now, and it was my birthday and it was coming up. So I told Kevin I couldn't have him in the apartment. I was worried they'd like sell the TV or something like that, and I'd only rented it for a month. So I said to Kevin, I'm going to go down to Siem Reap with Nui like for the week for a few days, and I'm going to come back here. I'm going to have a party on my birthday, and then I'll probably go to Pattaya. So he can't stay in the apartment, I'm giving it up. But I gave him some money to stay in a what would we call them? A very, very cheap, better than the street. I think it was like there's some place like 500 baht a day. Or anyway, I gave him enough money to stay there for 3 days and a couple of hundred pesos. Baht, you know, to buy food and things. You know, it wouldn't be luxury, but it was enough, I thought, to tide him over. And I had it in my head when I got back from Siem Reap, and I would sit down with him and say, look, you know, this is all I can do for you, you know, and give him some advice. Because he tried the embassy and all that kind of thing. No one was going to help him. I don't think anyone could help him because he didn't want to. He didn't want to go. Christ knows why. I understand for like 20 years before he'd been living in heaven, but you would think the time in prison, the time living on the streets, because some of the stories, some of the shit he'd been through, and he had like skin disease problems and things, and when he'd been in the prison they were cramped up, you know, god awful time, but still he couldn't go, and he was an unpopular guy at this stage. None of the girls, all the girls that used to work nice, they helped him start off because they felt guilty, and now no one wanted to be with him at all. So anyway, I went back to I went to see him with Nui, and then I came back and I went to see him at the place that I'd paid for him to stay at, and he was gone. He'd only stayed one night. He insisted on the money back from them, and that was it. Nobody, and I mean nobody that I know of, ever heard of Kevin again. I've got no idea if he made it back to the UK. No idea if he died and ended up somewhere. I know he didn't stay in Pattaya, and I know he didn't stay in Bangkok, just because I know a lot of people there, and you know, word would have got round somewhere, because for a while a lot of people were saying what the hell's happened to Kevin. I like to think he went back to the UK. I would like to think he went back to the UK, he must have done, and I don't even know his second name. I don't know what, I may have done it once, but I had no contact details from there. If he'd ended up in prison, Kevin was the kind of guy, he wasn't shy asking for help. You know, he wouldn't have sat in there silently and done his time, so he would have written or got word out, you know, to people begging for help. So I know he's not in prison. Whether he died or something or what, I have no idea. And that's why you don't want to run out of money, fellas, you know what I mean? It was awful to see him like that, but there's only so much you can do, and it happens so often. So many people overstay. They don't get out before the cash runs out. If you stay too long, you're trapped, and it ain't clever, it's terrible. Anyway, that's the end of that story, a tale from Thailand, a cautionary tale. I will tell you one funny side note on that though, which was quite amusing, because Kevin, when he was staying with me, he told me some stories. I'll tell you. When he went down and got arrested, he did 2 stints in prison. And the first stint he did, he went down. There's a beggar who lives on the street. I think it's second road in Pattaya, and he's got no arm there. He's not shoulder. He's covered in scars, and he's like, I think he was blown up in Cambodia or something like that. Because a lot of the beggars in Pattaya are from Cambodia, and I always gave the guy cash. A lot of people will tell you not to give money to beggars in Thailand because there is no need to be a beggar in Thailand. Not like the Philippines. These people are desperately poor. There's no help for them. But in Thailand, if you're poor and you're hungry, you can go to temples. Temples will never turn you away. I mean, even Kevin spent some nights in the temples. The trouble he finds is the police go around in the mornings looking for expats who stay in the temple because they know they're overstayers. But yeah, if you're homeless over there, at night, you can go to the temple, they'll feed you, you stay the night in the temple, then they'll feed you again in the morning. So the only people that don't do that, the only people you'll see on the street in Thailand, are people who are alcoholics and drug addicts who've been kicked out of the temple. And they must have a real bad problem, because even if you get kicked out one night, you go back again, the monks will forgive you. So they're staying there because they want to for whatever reason. They're professional beggars, or there's a problem that no temple will take them. You know, that's generally, there will be exceptions, but that's generally as a rule. But anyway, this guy I used to give the money to, not a lot, but if I saw him, I always felt sorry for him, down lost the limbs and that. Kevin was saying when he got, because he got done for begging a couple of times, and he was in prison at the same time Kevin was in the old monkey house, as they called it, and apparently he's minted. Because in there, when you're in the prison, you can get food, like, you know, you can pay for street food naturally bought in, they've got these things in it. And apparently this guy, when he got in there, he had a phone, because he got enough phones in there. He was getting pizzas delivered, this Cambodian guy and that. Apparently he was running all the beggars in the whole, in Pattaya, like it was his little business, and they all worked for him. And when he went in there, he was treated like a king. He had his own little sleeping area and that. He wasn't pushed together like all the others. And that made me smile, because he looks the part, that guy. He's probably still there now begging, but trust me, he earns more money than me and you do. And the other one was, it was either the first or the second time Kevin went down. He got sentenced the same time as 6 big drug dealers. I mean, I don't know if they were big in terms of Thai history, but they were certainly big for Pattaya, and they were Thais. And Kevin got sentenced the same day as them, and went in the same transport as them down to from the Jomtien immigration to the prison, and went in the same time as they did. He says they got in there, went through the whole processing thing. He was in there 3 months. They were in there about an hour, these 6 blokes, and they pissed off, and they were replaced by 6 other guys. And those 6 other guys were doing their time for them, and that was it. They'd obviously paid a bribe or whatever. You know, as far as the world's concerned, they're doing their 20-year, 30-year stretch or whatever it is, and these other guys are doing the sentence for them. And then once a month, the 6 guys would swap over with another 6 guys. So it wasn't someone like doing the old period, but once a month, and Kevin was there 3 months ago, and every month they'd swap over and another 6 guys would come in and do their time, like paying and do the sentences. And that was it. He never saw these dealers again. I mean, it's bad, but I think it's marvellous. I do laugh at things, and I find it, you know what I mean? I mean, obviously they should be doing their sentences, but I find it funny stuff like that. Anyway, I was going to tell you 2 stories, but I think I'll do this in 2 parts because this has gone on a long time. I don't want to bore everyone to death. I hope you enjoyed the story. I hope it wasn't too noisy. There's nowhere here you can't film without music or drilling or roads, or it's a bit of a nightmare. But anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, great if you subscribed. Great if you hit the like button. And leave a comment. You know, I do like the comments. You know, it's all great for the algorithm. Really appreciate it, guys. Really do appreciate it. Be lucky. Bye bye.